Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Um, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Mary Gallimore Walker, and I'm a partner at Gallimore Levy Croissant Gallimore in High Point. I'm a member of the Real Property Section Council and get to co-chair the Return to the Vault Committee with Kyle Smalling. Kyle's the founder of Capital City Law and serves on the Executive Council for the Real Property section. So you'll see our faces on your screens and as hosts for this program each month. So for those of you that might be new to Return to the Vault, it's a monthly virtual program of the Real Property section. It's meant to help us stay connected through education, like today, shared experience, conversation, and question and answer. And it was inspired by the learning that used to happen in the vault and Register of Deeds offices all over our state. Just those informal moments where you could ask questions and look at documents together. And, our practice has changed a lot because of technology. We can search title from right here at our computers, but Return to the Vault is a way of bringing back some of that connection. So we meet on the first Wednesday of each month, and it's a 1 hour Zoom program. It's not for CLE credit, but each session is recorded and it'll be posted for section members to access later. So if you go into your bar association account, it will be there in the next week or so. So today we're grateful for Title Resources Group. They're our sponsor for today's program. And if you'll stick around just a few minutes after Natasha's presentation, they're going to have a giveaway for us. So I have some lucky winners. So and with that, I'm going to introduce Natasha Branch. She serves as Vice President of Education and Underwriting Counsel for Title Resources Group. She has been doing this a long time. She has 18 years of experience in underwriting and risk management. She serves as the secretary for the North Carolina Land Title Association, and she's a member of the North Carolina Bar Association Real Property Section Council. She's also an accomplished runner, and she completed the Every Women's Marathon just a couple months ago. So I don't know if you're back at it yet or not, but
I'm on a CLE. Can
um,
want to do it off like a
on a personal note, I'm grateful to call Natasha a friend and a colleague. And I wanted her to share with us today, not just because of her deep knowledge and understanding of what we do, but because of how she shares her knowledge. She's engaging and thoughtful. And whenever I've heard her speak or whenever she shared insight with me one-on-one, it's always done with a lot of humility. And you walk away feeling less alone and more confident in your practice. And I think that's something that is helpful for all of us. So I know that each of you will walk away feeling that today. So Natasha, thanks for being with us, and we're glad to have you. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you for that introduction, Mary. I really appreciate it. I am going to share my screen, so give me one moment. All right, and if someone can give me a thumbs up and just let me know if you see my screen. Okay, I will ask if everyone could mute themselves just so that we don't have any background noise for right now. If you need to ask a question, please feel free to unmute yourself. But if you will mute yourself, that would be awesome. Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak with you all today. Thank you so much, Mary and Kyle, for asking me to join today and share just some information and knowledge that I've learned over the years, and hopefully some of this will help most of you, if not all. I won't give another introduction of myself, but I will say that one thing, maybe a couple things you might not know about me is that I'm a two-time Tar Heel grad, go Heels, and I've been with the title industry for 18 years, so I haven't been in private practice since then. But one thing you might not know about me is that in 2024, I took a career break, a several-month career break. And during that time, I helped two local law firms with residential real estate closings and reviewing files for final title opinion preparation. So I'm not too far removed from the closing process. And based on what I learned in 2024, much has changed. And other things have not changed since I was a closing attorney back in the early 2000s. So again, hopefully I can share the knowledge that I learned from that period of time, as well as a title insurance employee and underwriting counsel, and also with my experience that I had with the two law firms that I helped back in 2024 with their closings. So today, this isn't just a webinar, it's a conversation, a bit of truth, a bit of strategy, and maybe a little therapy. I know you probably didn't think that's what you were joining today to do, but yeah, that's why we're here today. First, before we get going, I want to share a brief disclaimer with you. This presentation is intended to provide general information on legal topics and is for educational purposes only. The content presented should not be construed as legal advice or a substitute for consultation with a qualified legal professional. I won't continue to read what I have here, but just know this is my disclaimer, and I wouldn't be an attorney if I didn't give this disclaimer to you today. So now you've been disclaimed. What will we cover today? This session will be interactive, so get your phones out if you don't have them out already, because we're going to use the Mentimeter site so that this can be an interactive session. It'll be vulnerable and practical. The interactive portion of this webinar on the Mentimeter site is anonymous. I can't see the names of anyone responding to the question, so please keep that in mind. I'll share a story with you that still makes me wince, and we'll talk about the claims we all fear and how to avoid them. Also, the top 10 pitfalls are subjective and based on my experience as a closing attorney and title insurance underwriting counsel. Others may differ in their opinion as to which pitfalls are the top 10. So again, this is subjective, but it's based on my experience as well. All right, so at the beginning, I included a link in the chat. If you wouldn't mind either clicking on that link or taking your phones out and open to the camera setting and scan this QR code. And please answer the first question that we have for this interactive session. And that question is, what's one word or phrase that describes your last closing under pressure? We've all had them, so let's share with each other. Let's think about the most recent closing that made your heart rate spike and share a word or phrase that describes that last closing under pressure. I'll give you a moment or two to start adding your word or phrases to the site, and I'll also bring up. All right, so we have a few answers already. Again, what's the closing? Sorry, we are on the wrong slide. I apologize for that. I apologize. I advanced it somehow or another, but this is the question that you should be answering. What's one word or phrase that describes your last closing under pressure? All right, we'll wait for a moment for a few more answers since I was on the wrong slide. Someone put in the chat, children at the closing. I actually had one of those closings when I helped the law firm in 2024. And one of the kids, I'll share this while you're answering that question. One of the kids ate a piece of hard candy that was on the table and started choking. Talk about blood pressure spike. The dad rushed over and helped, to get the candy out of the child's throat. She turned beet red before that all happened. But yes, that was at one of the closings I worked on in 2024. So I hear you, Laura. Okay, frustrated buyer. stressful, stress, angry, rushed, tense, crazy, frustrating. Those are some of the words that have been used today, and you may have some more as you're adding your answers for your last closing under pressure. All right, we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, before we get into the heart of today's session, I want to begin with the story. It's a story I've shared before, and some of you may remember it from the Real Property Section meeting last May. But I believe it's worth revisiting because it's not just a cautionary tale, it's also the reason I'm here with you today. Roughly 10 years ago, I found myself attending the annual Real Property Section meeting, just like many of you. I was sitting in the audience, listening intently to the case law update when I heard the facts of a case that sounded oddly familiar. As the presenter continued, my stomach dropped. The case they were discussing had made it to the Court of Appeals, and it was based on a closing I had handled 12 years earlier. My mistake, an avoidable one, was at the center of that appellate decision, and a family squabble was also mixed in that. Now, my name wasn't mentioned. It wasn't in the slides or the materials. Trust me, I looked. But I knew, and let me tell you, nothing can prepare you for hearing your own error presented in a CLE. I sat there frozen, equal parts embarrassed and mortified. I wanted to shrink down in my seat. Though the closing had taken place more than a decade earlier, in that moment, I was back in the middle of it. And the question that looped in my mind was the one I had asked many times before. How could I have made such a stupid mistake? But here's what the CLE room didn't know. At the time of that closing, I was still relatively new to solo practice and the practice of law, driven, ambitious, grateful for every file that came through the door, and completely incapable of saying no. I accepted every order regardless of bandwidth. I was working 12 to 14-hour days, surviving on one meal a day, usually something I could eat while driving, who's been there before, and getting maybe 5 hours of sleep a night on a good day. In short, I was burning out, and that burnout clouded my thinking. I still remember the exact moment it happened. A mortgage broker sent a last-minute request. One of those, can you just ... messages that sound simple, but lands during the most chaotic part of your day. I was exhausted, I was rushing, and I made the wrong call. It was a refinance, and the error impacted the lender's lien. Thankfully, the lender's loss was covered under their title policy, but that didn't erase the mistake, and it certainly didn't erase the way it made me feel. So why am I telling you this? Because this story represents more than a legal misstep. It represents how easy it is, even for smart, competent, well-intentioned professionals, to get it wrong when the systems around us and within us are running on fumes. And that's what this webinar is all about. We're going to talk about the top 10 pitfalls that lead to claims, frustration, and sleepless nights, from documentation and title review issues to the lifestyle habits and practice management patterns that quietly set us up to fail. If I'd had today's strategies back then, if I'd paused, planned, and protected my capacity, I likely wouldn't be telling you this story today, but I am. Because mistakes don't define us, how we respond to them does. So let's get into it. Real talk, real tools, and hopefully real prevention. So this was, if I had to say, was the perfect storm for burnout and pressure. Let's recap that story. I was a newish solo practitioner, working long hours, had a poor diet, and very little sleep. Last-minute broker requests led to the mistake. I wasn't just overworked, I was under-functioning. All right, we have another check-in question here. So the next question here is, have you ever had a moment where you thought, how did I miss that?
Yeah.
Again, your answers are anonymous, just in case anyone joined late. These are anonymous answers, so please answer the question here. Have you ever had a moment where you thought, how did I miss that? And you'll use the same link that I already sent in the chat. Okay, so far, 15 of you said yes. You've had that question before. 2 said too many to count. Me too. And thankfully, no one has said that they're in one right now. And since a few people joined late, let me do this real quick. I will re-include the link here. Okay. Looks like the answers are still slowly coming in. We're at 18 yeses and too many to count. Thank you so much for your responses. Okay, we have 3 too many to count. All right. Closings go wrong due to a mix of legal missteps and human factors like burnout, pressure, and isolation. It's not usually one big thing, it's a dozen small ones. Often, it's not that we don't know, it's what we don't catch because we're exhausted, rushed, or distracted. So take a look at that Venn diagram and see like how this all the little things, the small items can add up to some really major errors here. And sometimes stuff happens. I get that completely. All right, so we'll talk about the top legal pitfalls that trigger claims. Again, subjective, based on my experience. You may have experienced a few of these yourself. For each pitfall, I'll discuss briefly what it looks like and how to prevent it. For some, I'll share a related claims example. The first one is incorrect legal descriptions. You can read on your screen some examples of what it looks like and how to prevent it. But for this one, I'll share a brief claim example. The closing attorney closed 2 transactions in the same day, same seller for both transactions. The closing attorney inadvertently included the insured parcel in a different deed to a different buyer, and that deed was recorded before the insured deed was recorded. Because the seller owned the parcel that was conveyed, title vested in the third-party buyer. When the deed into the insured was recorded, the seller had technically already conveyed that parcel. The third-party buyer did not cooperate by simply deeding the parcel to the insured, so the title company had to file a lawsuit against them in order to reform their deed. Now, one of the items that I have under how to prevent it, that was the claim example, but one of the items I have under how to prevent it is use a checklist. So you'll hear me say several times today, use a checklist. Using a checklist may not prevent every mistake. However, if used properly, it can prevent many. Improper disbursements, pitfall number 2. Some examples of that are shorter payoff due to miscalculation of interest, or say you calculate the interest based on the closing date and then the closing date is pushed back, but someone in your office, whoever handles this, forgets to recalculate the interest such that you have enough for the payoff, a full payoff. How to prevent this? Make sure that you create a pause for wiring errors. Make sure you create a pause before wiring protocol. And you see here, we're not talking about fraud today necessarily, but I do understand that Payoffs or proceeds wired to wrong accounts can sometimes occur, and most of the time occur due to fraud. But again, that's not a part of this session today, although it certainly is something that can happen and has happened. Also, under how to prevent it, review payoff statement expiration and request updated payoff when needed. Make sure that you're verifying wiring instructions verbally, and make sure that you follow your office's protocol on how to verify wiring instructions, and also have a second set of eyes before wires are sent out. Disperse as stated on the settlement statement. Lien release failures. Here, I'll share another example with you. So we have a HELOC deed of trust that was paid off at closing. The borrower, who was also the seller in the transaction, signed a block and close letter. The letter was never sent to the lender, or the lender never received it, or so they said. The deed of trust was not canceled of record. The seller continued to draw from the account associated with the HELOC deed of trust. And here, we don't know if the seller or borrower didn't understand that that account was associated with that deed of trust that encumbered the property that they sold, or if they knowingly, drew the account up to a maximum amount, understanding, or if they knew that this lien was against the property that they had sold. Anyway, years later, the seller or borrower defaults on the loan, and the lender forecloses against the land owned by the insured. The title company, accepts the claim, defends the insured, and ended up paying the balance owed to stop the foreclosure proceeding. That's a pretty common claim as it relates to HELOC deeds of trust. And that's why most title companies are very firm on their requirement of having a cancellation of a HELOC deed of trust before moving forward. So make sure that you track and confirm all lien releases post-closing. Assign staff to confirm satisfaction is recorded, and train staff on payoff follow-up if needed. Maintain clear notes when multiple liens or payoffs are involved. And here, where it says what it looks like, confusion when two liens from same lender and only one is released. So if you have a payoff, and this example is more related to like if you have a deed of trust and then you have a HUD deed of trust, that's the second, but all you have is one payoff, and it is purportedly to pay off both loans or both deeds of trust. You want to make sure that that HUD deed of trust actually will be paid off and canceled of record based on that one payoff statement, because sometimes that does not happen. And that is also another reason why we have claims for those HUD deeds of trust that were never paid off or canceled of record. Pitfall number 4, missed title issues. There's many issues that can fall under this pitfall, but here's another claims example that I want to share with you. This was heir property. Prior deeds in the chain of title contain quite a few missing interests. So basically you had some heirs who deeded property to other heirs, but there were also still some missing heirs in the chain of title. So the signatures from those missing heirs were not obtained at closing. The title policy issued to the buyer contained no exception for missing interests. The title company retained counsel to obtain deeds from the missing heirs and ultimately filed a quiet title action so the insured owner could sell their property. So again, on the screen, you'll see a list of what it looks like and also how to prevent it. Settlement and recording errors. Okay, I'm sure some of you are wondering about the details of my mistake, which I had not previously shared. I didn't share the details last May, and I hadn't shared it so far today. But here they are. The property was owned by a single woman. She had 4 daughters. One of those daughters was the borrower on the loan along with the mother. The lender required me to prepare a deed from the mother to the mother and daughter who was also on the loan. Just before closing, the mortgage broker called and said the mother wanted to add all 4 daughters to the deed. So instead of preparing a separate deed to be recorded after the deed of trust, I slip sheeted the first page of the deed I previously prepared and added all 4 daughters to title. Only one daughter and the mother we're borrowers on the loan, sign the deed of trust. Now, I reported this exactly as it occurred to the title insurance company, and it was insured with no exception to the unencumbered interest of the three daughters. So that's why I said, luckily for me, the lender was protected under their title policy, and it was again reported exactly as it occurred. But that was the mistake I made, and I definitely know I should have prepared a separate deed. But in that moment, I wasn't thinking clearly enough in my haste to get this done and get to the closing that this was the error that was made. So just make sure that if you have last minute requests that you flag those, there should be a red flag on them, just because you never know what it might result in if you accidentally do the wrong thing. And that's what happened here. So make sure you're also creating a double check process prior to recording. And again, make sure that you have pre-recording checklists and confirm any last minute changes are approved by the lender. All right, we'll take a break from our pitfalls, and we have another question that I'd like for you to consider. And most of you have already submitted your answers here, but we may have a few more. So what's a closing issue you've had to clean up, yours or someone else's? You're not alone in this. Let's share and learn, and feel free to add some humor and levity or honesty in your responses. I'd love to hear more details about the about this one answer. Where is it at? The shit show. I'd love to hear more about that. Short payoff is the most common answer here. That's why it's in bold and in the middle of this word cloud. So uncanceled deed of trust, missing spouse on title, easement tax stamps, will not probated in North Carolina, incorrect legal. Looks like incorrect legal and short payoffs are neck and neck. Mobile home title, missed city taxes. Separated spouses, survey errors. I think I got most of them. Appraisal had more land. Somebody said probably my fault. I'm not sure what that means. Missing heirs, wires. Okay, and most of these things we've talked about in the first 5 pitfalls that we discussed so far. Someone said unresponsive counsel. All right, we'll move on to the next one, to the next slide here. And we'll talk about the next 5 lifestyle pitfalls or hidden traps that in our work and how we work. Saying yes to everything. And one person mentioned on the previous Mentimeter question about missed city taxes. One of the things that I want to share here, and this is something I've seen, is taking on closings outside your jurisdiction or county, because even in North Carolina, counties have different protocols and processes. And so that's something that you want to make sure that you keep an eye out for if you are taking on work that's outside of your county. And here, it's not just a time issue, it's a bandwidth and risk issue. So overcommitment leads to errors you didn't even know you were capable of. Whether you believe it or not, you're allowed to say no. Make sure that you're building boundaries, and also develop referral partnerships if you don't have the bandwidth to take on new work. Poor time management. Some attorneys treat closings like marathons, but schedule them like sprints, back to back to back. When scheduling back-to-back closings, there's zero time to breathe, reflect, or catch issues before they become claims. Your future self needs you to pad your schedule. Make sure that you're building in quiet zones like your career depends on it, because it does. Pitfall 8, lack of sleep or self-care. What it looks like: sleeping poorly, eating on the go or not at all, feeling constantly reactive, forgetting small but critical details due to brain fog, frequent errors in basic math or document sequencing. We've normalized exhaustion like it's a badge of honor. It's not, it's a risk factor. Burned out brains miss things like payoff dates, legal descriptions, and the fact that someone's name is completely spelled wrong. Remember, sleep is a strategy and it's not a luxury. Pitfall number 9, inadequate staff training. I have a question that I actually would like for you to answer in the chat. So put a 1 in the chat if you have a budget for your household or your business. If you create a budget for your household or your business, put a 1 in the Zoom chat. Okay, I see several 1s in the chat. Thank you for that. Now, put a 2 in the chat if you live by said budget or your spending habits match your budget. Okay, we're still in the Zoom chat, so put a 2 in the chat if you live by said budget or your spending habits match your budget. Someone put 1.5. That's probably me. That's me. 1.5. I see a couple 1.5s. I like it. I like it. Way to pivot and work around the system. Okay, so I asked that question. It's one thing to have a budget or checklist in this case. It's something completely different to use it. And I'll say right now, like we don't have a budget. We have had budget, for our family, for our household, but right now we don't have a budget. But when we had a budget, we lived by that budget. And so, but I use that example because with checklists, it's one thing to have them, but it's something completely different to actually use it. And so this is one thing I want to encourage you to do is not just put that checklist on the front of your folder if you still use paper on the front of your folder or even electronically, but make sure that you're using that checklist because as I mentioned before, it may not prevent every mistake, but it sure will help you prevent some of them, if not most of them. And then regarding the staff training, invest in a closing checklist and use it. And invest in training, even for experienced staff. Your team is only as strong as the last time they were trained. So don't assume knowledge. Make sure that you invest in it. And I have another question for you. And you don't have to answer this in the chat. But how many of you have invested in training for the new FinCEN rule effective March 1st? Again, you don't have to answer it in the chat. But I bring that up because March 1st, I mean, we're less than, what is today, the 4th? So we're less than 26 days away. No, because, sorry, February only has 28 days in it. So 24 days away. No matter what you think of the rule, it looks like that train is moving forward and you and your staff need to know how this new rule affects your law practice. This is not a FinCEN presentation, but I wanted to bring that up because that is a new rule that will go into effect on March 1st. And if you have not received training yet on it, it's definitely time to do so. All right, pitfall number 10, working in isolation, what it looks like. No second set of eyes on complex files, no second reviews, no safe space to ask, is this right? Feeling like you must figure it all out yourself. Solo does not have to mean siloed. I was a solo practitioner when I was in practice at the time. And I would encourage you to find a colleague, a mentor, a peer review group, someone to sanity check your decisions. Accountability isn't weakness, it's wisdom. All right. So what I would tell that overworked attorney, here's what I tell that young, inexperienced, overworked attorney. And the experience part, it does matter some, but it doesn't matter much when you're overworked because all of us can become inexperienced if we're overworked. We're not operating at our optimal best. So I would tell that young, overworked attorney, you don't have to accept everything to prove yourself. People pleasing will lead to burnout. Recovering people pleaser here. Slowing down is not failing. It's protecting your clients and your license. Make sure that you're setting those boundaries. Okay. You want fewer claims? Make sure that you're doing these 5 things. Use a checklist every single time. Pause before you wire. Build margin into your workflow. Invest in training, even for experienced staff. Create a peer review process, even if you're solo. And there are probably items that you can add to this list, but these are 5 things that, we want to start small and not give you 10 or 20 things that you can do. But these are 5 things that you can do to help prevent claims. All right, we have one last question in our Mentimeter site. Let's see. All right, so what's one habit or process you're committing to improve after today? And before I put that up here, I will, just in case you don't have it. Sorry, hold on. Yes. What's one habit or process you're committing to improve after today? Go ahead and start adding your answers to the Mentimeter site. I have the QR code back on the screen as well as the Mentimeter link. The link is also in the chat again, and I'll switch over to the Mentimeter page. And believe it or not, just one thing. That's all it takes to move from panic to prevention. So I'll read a few of the answers that came in so far that are also on your screen. Build margin. Yes, build margin. Delegating. Absolutely. I need to learn how to delegate more. Saying no. And for the person who said FinCEN training, yes, absolutely. Use checklists and train our experienced staff. Proofread work, read and reread, establish a workday ending time, yes. And make sure that if you are able to, that you're blocking out time as well for reviewing documents. Implement new checklists. Slow down, pause more often. Be willing to slow down more often, ask more questions, reach out for help. I will also, just so you know, when I actually, I don't know if I'll be able to do this, but Mary, let me know if I'll be able to send this, or if you will be able, someone will be able to send these responses out, which I'll send to you after this is over to the group. Okay, let's move on. I think we have all the answers here. If anyone wants to go ahead and answer, I'll leave it up. It'll still be active rather, even though it's not up on the screen. All right, why I shared my story with you. Because I've been in your shoes before. I know what it feels like. Not to shame, but to show we can grow even from our worst mistakes. And that is one thing I'll have to say for me is, I definitely felt shame for many years based on that mistake. And I'm not saying that's the only mistake I ever made, but that's the one that, was in the public eye, even if no one ever saw my name associated with that case. but I was, ashamed of it for a long time. But one thing I will have to say is mistakes don't define you. What you do next does. And apparently that quote is associated with Kim Perrell. So I wanted to give credit where credit is due. Okay, so we wanted to leave room for time for questions. And Mary, I don't know if you want to come back on right now or not. But if
Yeah.
anyone, I didn't see any questions in the chat, but if anyone has any questions and or wants to take themselves off mute, feel free to ask them now. And then I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mary.
Yeah, sounds good. I have a question, I guess about, I think a checklist is helpful and practical. And did you have, I don't know, did you kind of come up with your own? Did you have like a standard? I don't know, what were some of your things that you felt like were most helpful to have on that list?
Yeah, I would say, well, to be frank with you, I had I had a checklist, but did I use it? Sometimes, most of the time. Because I understand that you can be too busy to actually use a checklist, something that will really help you. And for me at the time, unfortunately, I was. But what was helpful on it was, to make sure that you're checking for vesting, making sure that that's accurate. And one thing I didn't mention, I don't think enough, or I don't think I mentioned at all in this session is making sure that you're comparing what you have on your new deed or deed of trust, whether that be vesting, legal description, with the title commitment. Make sure that you are not skipping requirements and exceptions in title commitments so that you know what your insured or what your customer is getting in their title policy. And so I would say the checklist should have, basically sections on vesting, the legal, the documents, the wire or funding or disbursements. I think a checklist could be created based on these pitfalls, especially the first 5. If you look at the list of pitfalls within each of, if you look at the list under each pitfall, then a checklist can be created from that. I may have a copy of a checklist. I'll have to check on that and see, but and also forward that as well. But it would just be an example, and I think they're easy enough to create. I think the question is probably the thing I would encourage the most is make sure that you're using a checklist.
Yeah, that makes sense. And if anyone has any, feel free to post them on the listserv if you found one that's helpful for you. Right, last call for questions. Okay, thank you so much, Natasha. This was great. Really practical and helpful, and just a good reminder, not just about the actual legal work, but just the way that you're managing your work and your life and taking care of yourself so that you can be set up to do the best work that you can do. So we're really grateful for your time and just for your sharing your knowledge with us. And we're grateful to TRG for their support of the real property section and of Return to the Vault. So I'm going to turn things over to Natasha, and she's going to introduce Kim, who is a regional manager at TRG, and then they're going to do our giveaway. And then I'll just come back on with a few announcements at the end.
Okay. Yes. So Kim Midget, actually, some of you may know her because she formerly worked for another title company in the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area, and I'll let her share that with you more if she'd like to. But Kim Midget is an area senior vice president, regional manager for Title Resources Group in sales, and she supports our North Carolina operations. And so I'll turn this over to Kim to share more about Title Resources Group.
Thank you, Natasha, and thank you also, Mary. Yes, I worked in the Raleigh-Durham area for another underwriter there for a few years. And so I made the crazy, I won't say mistake, but choice to move to be closer to my grown kids and my new grandbaby. So I'm up in the very cold Connecticut right now. We had like 18 inches of snow last weekend, but also you guys had crazy snow. So hopefully everyone's thawing out a bit from all the crazy weather going around. So thank you again. I'm happy to be here and just share with you a little bit about Title Resources Group. Title Resources Group began in 1984 as a Texas underwriter. Since then, we have expanded nationally to become the 5th largest underwriter in the country. For those of you who may not know us yet, TRG stands out for one simple reason. We combine our national strength with personal relationship-driven services. So what does that mean to our agents? Well, it starts with our ownership. TRG is backed by a group of strong, nationally recognized owner partners. That foundation gives us the stability and resources on a national scale while still allowing us to operate with the agility and personal attention of a local team. But I think what truly sets us apart is how we show up for our professionals that we support. TRG is built on connections that you can count on, relationships, resources, and expertise. We take pride in pairing the capabilities of a nationwide underwriter with the individualized care of a consultative partner. When you work with us, you aren't navigating transactions alone. You have direct access to underwriting counsel, such as Natasha, who collaborate with you, helping you move even the most complex files across the finish line. That direct line to decision makers is one of our greatest strengths, and one agents tell us that they value the most. I'm really proud to work closely with Natasha. She genuinely cares about her agents and consistently responds quickly with clear, well-explained answers when you need them the most. We also understand that every agent, every market, and every client is unique. Excuse me. That's why we deliver custom-tailored solutions and not a one-size-fits-all approach. In other words, we don't have checkboxes for underwriting. We don't stop at underwriting support. We offer a suite of tools and resources designed to give you an edge in your business, such as our agent portal that can help streamline your business, our marketing portal that elevates your presence in your market, and the education we offer, like today, that helps you stay up to date and ahead of emerging trends and supports your professional development. These aren't just tools, they're tangible ways we help you grow market share, strengthen your value to clients, and operate with greater confidence. So whether you're hearing about TRG for the first time or simply learning more about who we are, know that we are here to be more than your underwriter. We're here to be your partner, a partner committed to your success, your growth, and your ability to deliver the highest level of service in your market. Again, thank you all for your time today. And now I have the honor of announcing the names of the winners, I should say, for our gift card giveaway. We have 4 gift cards today, so I'll go ahead and announce those now. The first winner, drum roll, is Sarah Page. And you know, I didn't ask this to Mary or Natasha. How are we getting these to the winners?
I will send them.
Okay, wonderful. All right, first winner, Sarah Page. Our second winner is Julie Glenn. Our third winner is Ryan Gladden. And last but not least, our fourth winner is Scott Saylor. So again, congratulations to you all. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you so much, Kim, and congratulations to our winners. And Natasha will get those sent out to you. Natasha, anything else from you, or you have anything else to share before we wrap up?
I don't. Thank you so much for attending, and I included my contact information. If anyone needs to reach out to me for anything, I'm here to help and happy to help in any way that I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll show you our next slide. Just has a couple of dates to remember for next month and in the coming months. Our return to the vault is, will typically be on the first Wednesday of each month. So next month, March 4th, we're going to hear from Nancy Ferguson and Biz Harrison. They're going to give us a helpful legislative update, just what's been going on and what's to come. And that's going to be sponsored by the Land Title Association and Land Title Association. So we're excited about that. And then we kind of have an extra return to the vault next month, just because of so many questions that have come up related to equitable distribution and the changes that have come with statute 50-20. And so we're going to have Whit Clanton with us next month on the 19th to talk to us about what do those changes mean? How does it affect our work and our deed preparation or any, information related to list pendants and things like that. So I'm excited about that. Something I need to learn more about too. So additionally, just to get this in front of you, our real property section annual meeting is May 15th and 16th in Asheville this year. So looking forward to that. You're going to see more information start to come out about that over the next month or two, and some scholarship opportunities for just to help attorneys make it more accessible to get there, because we think it's a really valuable time, and excited about it. So thank y'all for being here. Thank you, Kim and Natasha, for your time and just for investing in our section today. And we'll see you next month.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.